So the other week we had the debate between John Fetterman and Dr. Oz, and it didn't go too well. If you're a Fetterman guy, you're watching it and you're kind of cringing and wincing and saying, "Ugh." And the reason is, look, he had a stroke 5 months ago, and he's still having problems articulating his thoughts. Now, many experts have weighed in on this, and they said this is not a cognition problem. Like, he can understand perfectly fine. It's just articulating his thoughts, conveying his thoughts is difficult. It's difficult for him to, form coherent sentences, piece the words together properly, put the inflection in the right spot, etc. But either way, you were watching it and you were going, ugh. Now, the fact of the matter is, though, even though Fetterman struggled mightily, Dr. Oz in that debate came across as incredibly smug, incredibly arrogant, and like a fast-talking con artist. And the reason he came across as all of those things is because he is those things. So watching it, I was watching everybody around me say, like, look, this is it. It's over. The election's over. Fetterman totally blew it. There's no coming back from this. And I did not pound the gavel that aggressively, because politics is weird today, man. If the guy from the fucking Apprentice, who has gone bankrupt 6 different times and, is a total weirdo, if that dude can win the presidency after basically being caught sexually assaulting women and talking about it on camera, I grabbed by the pussy, I don't even wait. Like, obviously, all the traditional rules of politics are out the window, right? Remember when Bernie had a heart attack, and then he went up in the polls, and everybody and their mother was like, oh, what? Oh. It wasn't something that voters held against him. So that was some evidence of perhaps the things that back in the 1980s would have been like, you're out, you're done. Perhaps those things just don't apply anymore. So I didn't pound the gavel that aggressively because I don't know what the fuck is going to happen, right? I don't know what the fuck is going to happen. Fetterman had a giant lead, and then that lead has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller, and now they're basically dead tied. But there's some interesting bits of information that I want to share with you. So this is in Raw Story. Fetterman raises unprecedented $2 million in less than 24 hours after the debate. What? Wow. There was another poll that came out that I want to share with you. It was 48% said Fetterman has the ability to do the job. It was only like 35% that said he doesn't. There was one poll where before the debate, Oz was up by 4 points over Fetterman. After the debate, Fetterman cut that lead to 2. Look, I'm just the reporter dude right now. I'm just telling you what is. I'm not putting any spin on it, not giving you my opinion on this shit. Those were the numbers. Oz was up 4. After the debate, he was only up 2. Okay? Now, again, depends what poll you look at. They're basically in a dead tie. Some Oz is up, some Fetterman is up. So, I mean, it's still not a good place if you're Fetterman to be, because there was a time when he was up by like 20 points. So, obviously, he didn't peak at the right time. But who the fuck knows what's going to happen, man? Who knows what's going to happen? So, I'll just give you a little bit from this article here in Raw Story. Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, the state's Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate, announced Wednesday afternoon that his campaign had raised more than $2 million in less than 24 hours following a debate with his Republican opponent, Dr. Mehmet Oz. The campaign said its latest fundraising numbers indicate unprecedented and massive haul for a Pennsylvania Senate race, following Oz's statement that local political leaders should have an equal say in decisions about abortion care as pregnant patients and their doctors. So that was the big moment that really hurt Oz. Is, he was trying to give the argument, the old school Republican argument is, abortion, leave it up to the states. Now, that's their way to try to not sound extreme, because their actual position is ban abortion nationwide. But for the longest time, they couldn't say that because they knew how politically not viable it is. So they would just say, like, overturn Roe versus Wade and leave abortion to the states. Well, Dr. Oz was trying to give that position, but he's not good at politics. So he didn't give it well. And he said, I want abortion to be left up to women, their doctors, and local political leaders. Local political leaders. So what do you want to do? I'm about to make a very intimate personal decision. Quick, get the mayor on the phone. Nobody wants that. So that blew up in his face. It did. And so that might be one of the reasons people think why Fetterman got this big fundraising boost. Following the debate, the national corporate media focused largely on Fetterman's performance and health 5 months after he suffered a stroke, which has left him with auditory processing issues. Quote, "This is a gigantic show of support for John and his debate performance," said Brendan McPhillips, Fetterman's campaign manager. "We're honored and grateful for the support heading into the last 2 weeks of the race." Okay, so now let me say this, because look, to me, this is the most important point, right? You have these people who are disingenuous on the right, who are arguing, oh man, this is real bad. This is real bad. I feel bad for Fetterman. Wrap it up already. Have some mercy for the love of God. I mean, look at this guy. He's so struggling so much. He can't vote for that. But they're trying to cloak their real position, which is, I don't agree with John Fetterman because I don't agree with his policies. But they're not talking about the policies. They're talking about, oh man, look, it's just not electable. Can't vote for him. I mean, look, see what I'm saying? He's off, bro. He's off. I would have respected more if you were just upfront. And if you said, look, I just don't agree with his policies, that's why I'm not in favor of him. Because we all know, if there was a guy who looked like John Fetterman, sounded like John Fetterman, just had a stroke, everything exactly the same, but they were anti-abortion and pro-tax cuts for the rich and pro-border wall and, you name it, right? They would overlook the struggles and be like, I agree with him, so I'm going to vote for him, right? So just say that. Say that. It's so fucking disingenuous because the fact of the matter is, I would vote for John Fetterman if he had a giant donkey dick growing out of the middle of his forehead over Dr. Oz. Why? Because John Fetterman wants to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. John Fetterman wants to pass the PRO Act, which would make it so more people are in unions, which means better wages for the working class. So just be honest. Just be honest about your real position, your real perspective. John Fetterman could totally lose the ability to talk. Forget the stumbling through sentences. He could just totally lose his voice, and I'd be like, he's still way better than Dr. Oz. This guy is an oligarch. That's what he is, right? He's a con artist, and he's been caught as a con artist. He's killed 329 puppies with research that he did. But most importantly, because we're talking about politics here and policy, he doesn't want to raise the minimum wage. He's not for the PRO Act. He doesn't want to raise taxes on the wealthier corporations. I'm sure he's never met a war he didn't like, foreign policy-wise. So that's what really matters here. And so look, it's possible that voters in Pennsylvania will overlook that. And the other thing is, the thing Fetterman has had going to his advantage for the longest time is that, Dr. Oz is not even from Pennsylvania. He's from New Jersey. And he's got 10 fucking mansions that he lied about and said, I only have 2. So I really think the carpetbagger thing, even though it's not the most compelling argument to me, because I could imagine somebody from out of a state who would do better for the state because their policies are better, right? But it matters a lot to people, to real people. They see that and they're like, oh, he's not even one of us, right? So that might ultimately get Fetterman across the finish line, among other things. But it is interesting, isn't it? A big fundraising boom after a debate performance that was yikesy because he's got some health struggles. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.